Welcome to the Aquaflow Crypto Lab. We are just starting the month of September. We were waiting for the end of August to have a clear picture of the market. And now that we are starting a new 2-month candle, I have some good news to share and some bad news. In this video, we are going to start with the 2-month analysis. Then we are going to dive into the daily chart to understand exactly what's going on. I'm going to share an update of the bull bear wave indicator. Then I will tell you everything you need to know about the big picture using the bull bear market band. Then of course there is a bull bear index using the 23 days time frame. And last but not least, I'm going to present the XRP cloud chart. If you're new here, I'm sharing my observations of the market using my custom indicators. So if you like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's begin. First, let's talk about the good news. On the macro picture, XRP is still bullish. Indeed, if we take the close of this 2-month candle and we draw a line, you can see that XRP is respecting this level. What does it mean? Here you see we bounced from it and we went down, then we went up, here we touched it and we bounced from it again. But starting from this candle, we were able to close above the level, as you can see, and then we stayed above it with this candle, again above it with this candle, again, so 4 candles in a row, we stayed above this critical level. So this means that the bulls are fighting to keep XRP above this critical level. But at the same time, we have this golden resistance. You see the channel that is going up like this, that we touched here and here. We are stuck below it. With this candle, we tried to go above it, but we got rejected. Here it was the same thing. With this candle, it was the same thing. And more recently, we touched it and we got rejected to the downside. And at the same time, on this channel here, we have the blue indicator, the blue line that you see here, and the orange line. And we know that when we are below those lines, we are in a bear market, and above them, we are in a bull market. For example, you see here, during this entire phase, we were below the lines, okay? And we tried to go above them multiple times, but we failed. And it was with this huge green candle that we were able to transition above these lines. And instead of using them as a strong resistance, starting from here, we used them as a strong support. But 4 months ago, I said that we need to be careful. Why? It's very simple. You see here the blue line, we have this candle, but after, with this candle, we crossed the blue line and we closed the candle with a full body below the blue line. And that's when we know that the blue line would start becoming a strong resistance. And I said that the month of August, the end of the month of August, will tell us if XRP is able to close above the blue line or below it, as we know that it is a resistance. And as you can see, we touched here the golden resistance and we got rejected, but at the same time we knew that this was a strong resistance, and you see that XRP closed below the blue line. And at the same time we have the orange line, and as you can see we used the orange line as a strong support with this candle and with this candle. And even if this candle right here closed below the blue line in August, it closed above the orange line. So this means that the orange line is still a support. And now you can see that XRP is still stuck in this orange box. For the reminder, this orange box is the level of Bitcoin with the green line you can see here. I have Bitcoin overlaid on the XRP chart, and you see with the green line, this is the top of Bitcoin, this is the bottom of Bitcoin, and I draw this orange box. And as you can see here, we are not able to make it out of this orange box, and every time that we try to go above it, we are rejected to the downside. And now we have those 4 candles in a row with the full body inside the orange box. And just right here, we have the 2-month candle for September and October. Of course, today is the 1st of September, and this candle will close at the end of October. So with this candle, we will know if XRP is able to go above the orange line and the golden resistance, as we are still using the orange line as a support, as you can see. But at the same time, we have officially the blue line above us, and it's acting as a strong resistance. But I want also to share some good news with you, because as you can see here, the sky indicator is penetrating the next orange box. And as you remember, you know that XRP is reaching major tops when the sky indicator penetrates a new orange box. You remember here we have the orange box and the sky indicator joining, and we have the price that went from here to here. Then again here we have the price coming from here, and that went all the way up until reaching the skyline indicator when the skyline indicator was inside the orange box. Then again we have the skyline like this going down, penetrating the box again, and XRP went from here to the skyline indicator. And the last time that it happened, it was here. We have the skyline indicator going down, and the price went from here all the way up until reaching the sky indicator. So the theory says that XRP will reach the next top when the skyline will penetrate here, the next orange box. Of course, I remind you that this is pure speculation. I don't have crystal balls. But with this simple analysis, you can understand why it makes sense. But before thinking about new tops, we have to overcome this area. And if I stay really objective and transparent, every time that we closed below the blue line, we stayed below it for quite a long time. So my only hope is that XRP will be able to bounce from the orange line to cross the golden resistance and finally reach new tops. Now you know everything about this chart, but we can dive even deeper by going to the daily time frame. And on the daily time frame, you can have a better understanding of what's going on, because we have currently this downtrend and this strong resistance that is pushing us to the downside. You can see that here we reached a major top by reaching the golden resistance that we saw earlier. Then huge rejection to the downside. We reached the orange box. Then we went above it again and below it. And currently we are just below the orange box. That's why we need to pay attention to how long this line will serve as a strong resistance. Because right now, every time that we retest it, we are rejected to the downside. And you can see that this resistance is crossing the orange box in September, at the end of September. So by the end of the month, we should know if XRP will be able to cross this strong resistance, or this resistance will keep pushing us to the downside. And now it's time to talk about the bull bear wave indicator. Okay guys, so you remember the last time that we talked about this chart, XRP was about to cross the middle line of the shadow indicator. And I'm not going to lie, it's not good news guys, because this shows that XRP has really a bearish behavior. And what we don't want to see is to see XRP here crossing the entire shadow and go below it. Because you remember that in the past, here, for example, when we crossed the shadow, so we went from here to here, and it was the beginning of the bear market, right? And even before this, it was the same. You can see that here we crossed the shadow and it was the beginning of our bear market. This is the reason why it's no joke, guys, and I don't want to see XRP crossing the shadow. And of course, if we do, the next levels to watch is this area, which is the bull bear wave indicator. But let's hope that XRP will be able to bounce from the shadow and to cross the middle line again. Then we can talk about the big picture chart with the bull bear band. According to this chart, as you can see here, we are still way above the band. And this is actually great news because it means that XRP is still in the bull market according to this indicator. Because of course, I remind you that all my indicators work in a similar manner. It's very simple to understand. When we are above the band, we are in a bull market. When we are below the band, we are in a bear market. And when we may be in a transition phase, the indicator becomes orange. And right now, as you can see, the indicator is still green. We are still above it. And at the same time, we have the bull market support with the blue dots. And we are still above all those lines. So maybe XRP is waiting to retest those areas. But according to this indicator, we will be in trouble if and only if we cross this and we start trending below those lines. So I think it's pretty straightforward. We can move to the next chart, the bull bear index. So on this chart, we have, of course, the bull bear index, which is saying that XRP is still 100% bullish. That's why for now, we don't have to worry because here you see we were below the gummy line and we used it as a strong resistance because here we have a rejection, a second rejection, a third rejection, before crossing it, right? Here it was the same. We used it as a support. We crossed it to the downside and then resistance, resistance, resistance again. Then we crossed it, bull market. Here it was a wonderful support, but again, we closed below it with this candle and we started using this line as a strong resistance again. And here we went down. Then during this entire phase, we stayed below the gummy line even if with this candle we closed above the gummy line, we have no full candle body closing above the line. Let's zoom in. You can see here we have no full candle body. Even with this candle, we almost closed above the line, but we couldn't, and we had a rejection to the downside. So now you can understand how important this line is. That's why we don't want to cross it to the downside, right? So far, XRP is still above the gummy line, which is pretty good. So according to this chart, we are still in a bull market. And even if it looks very, very scary, as long as XRP stays above the gummy line, we are still in a bull market and there is nothing to worry about. Yet, if we see XRP crossing the gummy line, we would be in trouble, guys. And for sure, some bearishness will start appearing in the bull bear index. I hope it's clear. We can move to the last chart of the day, the cloud chart. So this is the chart that warned us that here we could have a drop of XRP, because as you can see, we had a warning just right here. We have a rejection to the downside. Here we have a warning again and we went down. And this chart works the same as the others, except that we have the cloud indicator this time. And as you can see here, we went from here, then we went down to retest the cloud as a support. We went up, we stayed inside the cloud. It was pretty scary because we could have crossed the cloud, but it wasn't the case. And we used it as a beautiful support to bounce to the upside. And now we are still trending above the cloud, which is pretty good. And the next area of support, as you can see, is the cloud, which is between $2.47 and $2.09. So again, according to this analysis, we are still in a bull market. But what we don't want to see is to see XRP crossing these areas, because again, guys, we would be in big trouble. Because usually when we cross it, we stay below it for a long time. For example, you can see just right here. Here we crossed it and we stayed below it during this entire time, right? Then we went above it and we stayed inside it and above it for quite a long time, just right here. Then we crossed it again with this red candle and we started using this cloud indicator as a strong resistance this time. And we stayed below it for a long time again. I remind you that I am using the 20 days time frame, so this represents multiple months. And now that we were able to cross above here the cloud indicator, we are using it as a strong support, which is pretty good. So we don't want to cross it again. So this is the condition that XRP has to respect in order to go up and to reach a new moon. Now you know everything about the current situation. On the short term, XRP is pretty bearish, I'm not going to lie. But if we take a step back and have a look at the big picture, you can see that XRP is still bullish. And I showed you the conditions we have to respect if we want XRP to go up. If you want to follow this journey with us, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the content, give me a thumbs up. That's all for today's video, and as always, time will tell.